Welcome to the Reverberations Podcast, where we explore the human experience and the journey of self-discovery. Thank you for tuning in. I'm your host, John Stuart, founder of 365, author, sound alchemist, specialist in vibrational medicine, and integrative wellness with a focus on emotional trauma. As always, it's an honor to share this time and space with you, as well as what supports this podcast. There's no questioning the importance of our dietary intake in regards to our overall health and wellness goals. Known as a transformation company, I was introduced to Purium a little under a year ago and implemented it as a staple in my daily personal and professional practice. Designed in consideration of human physiology, human metabolism, and human potential, the Daily Core 4 is made up of 4 pillars of natural Purium products to cleanse the body and satisfy its critical needs at a cellular level. Their products fit any preferred dietary lifestyle, whether you're looking for detox, life transformation, nourishment, weight loss, immune support, fitness, gut health. You will be supported on your journey. And perhaps what I appreciate the most is that Purium is in alignment with my values, sourcing from organic, sustainable farmers and practicing eco-friendly shipping with a commitment to be plastic-free by the end of 2021. Purium is a quality, trusted company with a vested interest in spreading economic freedom through plant-based wellness. Visit ishoppurium.com. That's IShopPurium.com. Enter referral code AMPLIFYYOURLOVE for $50 off your first order. At 365, our mission is to facilitate and support the maximization of human potential and global sustainability by advocating whole health and promoting harmony within and throughout. 365's products and services are based on the ontology of mind, body, spirit, sound, where we address the full spectrum of well-being, physical, spiritual, mental, and emotional wellness. My mission as a practitioner is to lead clients to a clear and gentle understanding of their inner truth, untangling the energetic and subconscious constriction within our mind and body at a core level, loosening the intensity of belief patterns that no longer serve us, and providing an opening for us to remember and return to a state of harmony, natural vibrancy, and complete state of well-being. It all begins within, and it all begins with you. For 10% off products and services, enter code IAMLOVED at checkout. For the people that are listening, I want to share more about the work that you do and what goes into it because, so far what we've talked about is the scripting. And the scripting is so important. And I love how you use your client's voice because the power of our voice is so underestimated. And then you also have other technologies that are in there. And I'd really like to tap into that because, we've heard about theta healing, we've heard about sound healing, music therapy, especially now sound being such a buzzword, sound baths and all of these things that are going on. But let's get down into some of the scientific basis here, because I'd love to share a little bit about the brain states and what you work with in those recordings. So can you share a little bit on why theta and what maybe some of the other brainwaves and how they interact as well?
Sure. The first thing I would say is anyone that's interested on my webpage, changeyourmind.com, you can go to specials. There's a little, one of the categories, and there is a free download of a little research paper I did. I don't know, maybe 12 pages. It's not much. And it has pictures. It's easy to read. Don't think dull. And it, I like to be entertaining. And
nothing about you is dull, Teri.
I've been told that. So first, let me go over the 3 components. We'll go into the brainwaves a little bit, and then we'll go into theta. All of this is in this research document. You can jump up on Change Your Mind, go to specials, download for free. It's a PDF. It's yours for the asking. So again, I was using the Suggestipedia format, which came out of Bulgaria. Dr. Lozanov then followed up and got my certification at the Lozanov Institute. And they don't call it that, though. They do what's called subliminal learning. Pretty fascinating. And they don't work with theta, so that's not their game. They work with alpha, simply being overworked. My biggest contribution to science is I was tired. So that's my contribution to science. So I took this technology and fell asleep to it. And that took it to the higher level, lower frequency, whatever you want to call it. That magnified the work by taking it to theta. So the elements are, number one, each statement is repeated 3 times to an 8-second cadencing. Now, this was done on teaching people foreign language vocabulary words in the alpha state. They were awake, they were put into relaxation. The way they were put into relaxation was the largo sections of Baroque symphonies. So that very specific music, that very specific frequency. For those of you who know music, that means 60 beats to the minute, which is the heartbeat. So, you can just go, we could talk 3 podcasts just about that. But so there's your basics. So you've got this particular music behind you, which is holding the brain in a particular brain state, in a particular frequency, for want of better words. Then each statement is repeated 3 times to an 8-second cadencing. And so there are your basics. And of course, then for me, it's go to sleep. So now I've moved it from the alpha to the theta. So what are brain states? This is science. When it's science, I'll tell you it's science. When it's my opinion or my observation or my research, I'll tell you. If it's an opinion, I'll tell you. If I know it through research, I'll tell you. Okay, so to keep them straight, just see yourself going to play baseball. You're all suited up and you step onto that mound with a baseball bat in your hand. You're about to hit a home run and you are holding a bat, B-A-T, beta, alpha, theta, okay? So there are more. There's a high beta, and we're playing around with some others, but these are your basics just to get folks into what it's all about. So you hook these. Some of you may have done biofeedback. We now call it neurofeedback. Anytime you put neuro in front of something, you get to charge more. So I went from biofeedback to neurofeedback, but it's all the same. So they're going to put little nodes all over your head with wires. It's going to feed into a computer, and it's going to measure the electrical frequency going through your brain, the electrical signaling. Now, don't think slow, think fast. And this is measured in cycles per second, also hertz. So if you see Hz or CPS after a number, it's exactly the same thing. Okay. So high beta is your high. High beta is the highest, the fastest frequency that we're going to talk about today. And that's from about 29 to 35 hertz or cycles per second. Now think about per second, 35 cycles per second. Your brain's kind of humming up there. Yeah. High beta is anxiety and stress. Okay, so this is the state that boosts adrenaline, and this is needed. By the way, I don't do a good bad about brain states. Everybody goes, oh, don't go to high beta. I'm sorry. When I was hiking in Alaska and a bear showed up on the path in front of me, high beta was pretty effective.
Right.
So, I don't do the good bad about it. The brain does all of this. So there can't be anything unnatural about it because the brain does it. Okay, so high beta is your high stress. Boosts the production of adrenaline. It's needed in dangerous situations, places that require physical action. However, it also boosts cortisol, which suppresses the immune system. So this is the state that leads us into lowered immune system and leads us into these stress-related illnesses.
Okay.
This has been related directly to obesity, sleep disorders, heart disease, depression, diabetes, stomach problems, all that good stuff. So the point is you don't want too much high beta. You don't want too much of that. When you come down a little bit on those frequencies, 14 to 28, that's the brainwave state of what we call normal. Normal is not my language. We're going to talk about that. That is the white male left brain scientific community American language, which means it's normal to them. All right. And that's logical thought, analysis, talking like we're doing, problem solving, action, concentration. Most people are in beta. I'm sorry, if they're not in high beta, they're in beta most of their working hours. But this is thinking, speaking, doing, you're reading a book. This is where you discern, where you compare. All judgment comes from beta. So when we talk about consciousness and spiritual work, we want to have this as one of our cornerstones. All judgment comes from beta. Okay. That's not great necessarily in consciousness and spirituality work, but it's great if you're driving down the highway and you get a stop sign. Right. Judgment says stop for the stop sign. Okay. So again, the good and the bad of each state. We get that brain slowed down a little more, 8 to 14. Now we're in alpha. So we're going beta up to beta, alpha, theta. We're in alpha now. Most people have heard about alpha. This is relaxation. This is also the state of rapid learning. So this is where the Suggestopedia research comes in. But this is where you feel good. This is your pleasant feeling state. It's also automatic and routine activities, non-thinking activities like brushing your teeth. You don't go brush your teeth in beta. Toothbrush. Where's my toothbrush? Toothpaste. How do I get the toothpaste on the toothbrush? No. You're not analyzing it. So most of those are alpha activities. When you're soothed, when you're calm, when you're relaxing, when you're daydreaming, showering, meditating, praying, those kinds of things, drifting off to sleep.
So these are like more of your autonomic and automatic processes that are going on throughout the day.
If you're talking about automatic in the physical body, they can be going on throughout all of them. But if you're talking automatic through our activities, that's correct.
Yes. Okay.
Yes. Okay. But here's the fun thing about alpha. No sense of timing in alpha. So if you've got a kid that just doesn't have much association with time, you got an alpha kid. You don't have an analytical, comparing, discerning beta kid.
I think I have an alpha kid in myself.
I was just, well, if it makes you feel any better, I have created an alpha kid in myself. I was a pretty high performer at one time. This is also where you're going to get your ESP. You can get your intuition and all that. You can drop into this state and get your intuition. What we know, this is research. Alpha is freedom from pain. So alpha got biofeedback, that we now call neurofeedback, as I said, really got its acceptance because people with migraines could get rid of the migraines using this biofeedback by just learning to get to alpha, to get out of high beta and get out of beta and get into alpha. And this is the state that boosts serotonin, which is a natural antidepressant. But it's healing on all levels. Okay, so here's my opinion. The research is clear that this is a healing state physically and a non-pain state. The Mahaney theory, I'm right, is this is healing on mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual levels. There is no healing above alpha. You cannot logically talk yourself into a connection with spirit. Those are mutually exclusive. Spirit is not logical. Spirit is not, you can't take spirit into the courtroom and say, show up. It's not quite the way it works.
Yeah. So, show me what you're working with, spirit.
Right, exactly. give me a cost benefit analysis on that. Spirit, I'd like a return on investment on what you're telling me to do.
Right.
So those are mutually exclusive. So if you want to do spiritual work, it's just to be conscious and aware of which of these brain states you're operating in and where you get your responses. The fun thing for me is when I do these kinds of workshops, I just say to people before I explain this, I say, do me a favor and just jot down where you get your best ideas. What are you doing when your ideas come through? Mm. And you'll get showering or gardening or, petting my cat or playing with my kids. And those are all alpha activities.
Yeah.
And that's how we can get in touch with where our alpha shows up the most, because that's where our mind is let out of the box. Mm. So now theta, we've been up to bat through B and A. Theta is where the magic is. So theta is about 4 to 8 hertz. This is deep meditation. If you're a person who's meditated a long time or just has that kind of proclivity, you can do deep meditation in theta. So you're awake, but your brain is in theta. Most people get to theta asleep. So this is sleep and sleep-like states and dreaming. Okay. But you can be in deep reverie or just quietness, like when you're out in your yard and your deer shows up, you're most likely in theta, because if you were an alpha, the deer would still be picking up a frequency that says, this isn't nature.
Right.
No. But in theta, it's like everything's in the flow. There's a oneness. That's a delta is a little more oneness, but theta is that first state of oneness. And it's associated with creative people, long-term meditators. We also know this is the state of psychoimmunology, which is healing with the mind. Here's the fun science part of that. Theta resets potassium and sodium ion ratios in the body. Isn't that kind of fun?
That is.
So whatever the brain, whatever that electrical frequency is in the brain, it's telling the brain, the master glands, it's telling them which hormones to release. That's about as good as it gets.
Absolutely.
That's about as good as it gets. And as I've shared, I went to theta asleep. So we have, it's called REM sleep, rapid eye movement. We have REM and non-REM theta. REM, rapid eye movement, is where the action is. So if you want to have some fun, anybody listening who wants to play with this, especially if you have a kid, do this. Wait until a kid goes to sleep, go into their room, watch the little butterfly under their eyelid flicking around. That's rapid eye movement. They're in theta. And say something beautiful. I love you so much. And walk out of the room. See what the kid says to you when they wake up in the morning. That is so much fun.
I love that.
I do too.
I love that.
So I'm not above manipulation. All right. And by the way, I've got a script on manipulation. Manipulation and I are one. I release and forgive myself for manipulating. I release and forgive myself for not manipulating. I only manipulate for the highest good. That was a huge freedom for me because I never allowed myself to manipulate. Okay. So now we get below that, and that's delta. That's below 4 hertz. And this is really a pretty fun place because the brain is like brain dead. But if we hook the body up to galvanic skin response machines, the body is in a state of awareness. It's ready to rock and roll. The brain's missing, but the body is in a totally different place. And this is a trance-like state. And interesting, delta stimulates the pituitary. This triggers the human growth hormone. So if you've seen all the new, give me $3,000 and I'll give you human growth hormone to make you live longer, melatonin and DHEA. So everything everybody's paying so much to get over the counter today, this is the renewing and rebuilding state. That's delta. So my work obviously plays in theta, and I choose to believe there are many, many times it's going to drop down into delta. Here's the other side of delta. Delta is hyper-awareness, hypervigilance. I have not worked with a Navy SEAL yet that didn't live in delta awake.
Yeah.
They sit with their back to the wall. They walk in, you're having coffee at a restaurant, and they can tell you every person that's sitting in there. They're very, very hyper vigilant. So again, there's a plus, they're just different sides to each brain state. So let me get back to theta real quickly. So this is how it works with theta. All long-term memory is stored in theta. And the child between 3, I don't know about it today with all the video, and we haven't done new research, pre-hyper technology, the average brain state for a child 3 to 5 years of age was theta. So this is where brain states cross child psychology. So that means everything that happened to this kid between 3 and 5 when they're in theta is locked into long-term memory. So if they were told they were fabulous, beautiful, gorgeous, wonderful, loving kids, they're probably doing fine.
Yeah.
And any messages other than that between 3 and 5, they're still hanging out there. Okay, so here's the example I use. I was working with a new client yesterday. We were having lunch, one of the filmmakers. I'm just so excited to get the chance to work with these fabulous Make a Difference filmmakers. And she reached in her purse for her wallet, to get her credit card. And she said, so tell me about theta. And I said, well, you just took your wallet out of your purse. I said, what are you going to do when you're finished? She said, I'm going to put it back in my purse. I said, right. When you need it next time, where are you going to go? This is not a trick question. She said, in my purse. Okay, you understand theta right now. That's all theta does. See it as a purse or a closet or a bag or whatever you want to see it as. This is a metaphor. Don't let scientists get all over me because of this metaphor. And this long-term memory goes into that closet. If that memory is in some way not providing the support you want to have for the life you want to live, and you'd like to change it, you have to go to the closet to change it.
I love that.
This is why sitting and talking for an hour about your problems very rarely does you any good. Your story stays the same, and tomorrow when you're asked to a different person, you tell them the same story. And 3 years later, you're telling the same story. That's why we say change your story. You have to go to the theta closet to get that out. And the way you do that is go sleep. It's not complex.
Yeah. So what are some of the key things? Because like you shared, that a lot of these things, they trace back to childhood, or they go into these traumatic experiences.
Right.
And a lot of, like you said, the memories are stored in theta. So utilizing the technology that you have and providing these resources, these sessions for people, what are some of the things that people come to you for? What are some of the for lack of a better word, the problems or the challenges that they are coming to you for? And where do you see the best benefits in healing utilizing this type of technology?
Well, first, I've probably had one of nearly everything. As I said, I've worked with everything from CIA agents to students who wanted to pass their French test to a guy who wanted me to write a script for him that he traveled out of town as an accountant. He wanted to pick up women in bars. My ethics does not extend to that. But he was pretty insistent. He was a state auditor. He was a very fascinating guy, little teeny hunched over. Anyway, very interesting. So I've done this long enough, and this is why I did manipulation in IR1. I can write a script that the client thinks is getting them what they want, and I'm actually not getting them what they want. So I shouldn't admit that out loud. So I wrote him a script about he met.
Little detour.
A little detour. So like I wrote him a script about, he met women when he was out of town as appropriate.
Yes.
And
you got to reel it in.
Yeah. Anyway, what does that mean as appropriate? I said, well, with all the diseases going on today, I just want to protect you.
I'm just trying to look out for you, buddy.
I'm on your side.
We're on the same team here.
That's right. I'm on your wife's side. But anyway, I'm a feminist. You did not get who.
Oh, God. That's a whole other one there.
That's a whole new ballgame.
Yeah.
Anyway, and so he recorded and I loaded this thing up for him. He came back 10 days later, just hopping mad. He's sitting up straight. He's looking me straight in the eye. He has perfect communication. And he throws this script at me. He says, how could you have possibly charged me for this script? None of these were any of my issues. I'm a very interesting person. I have good communication. How could you even suggest I would try to meet another woman?
Oh.
I said, I apologize. Would you like a refund?
Yeah.
All the way home. Son, I'd be happy to cut you down. We got you straight. So
it worked.
That worked. Oops. Did I do something wrong? Oops.
Little did you know.
Don't mess with Texas.
That's right.
So, I've had all kinds, and I don't do nearly as much one-on-one work now. Number one, I've gotten expensive. So I'm in the price range now where I'm playing primarily with, as you mentioned before, professional athletes and folks like that. So, if an athlete comes to me, it's pretty simple. He wants a contract and he wants a long life in the sport. My NBA kid came to me in May. He had a contract. It wasn't renewed. They had jokes on the internet about him that maybe his coach could trade him for a bag of Dorito chips. He was not held in very high esteem in the league. I think that's a massive understatement.
Was it Cool Ranch at least?
Yeah, exactly. Can I get me up on the side? Could you give me some sleep? Do I get
right?
Can I have a beer with that?
Oh my gosh.
So at this point, because I have, as you know, got over 60 products on the webpage, and you can pick a topic and it's like the Pareto principle. I'd like to think that if you have an issue, you can at least get through 80% of it with a pre-recorded recording, and you don't have to get it. I've done that work for you. I've dug into all of what could possibly cause this stuff. But if you're specific, if it's outside of something, I've pre-recorded one of the topics I work with, then we go into this. We did get him a contract, by the way. His objective was to play well at the summer league. I have to tell you a funny story. I'd never seen a basketball game in my life when the guy came to me. I didn't own a TV. I had to check into a hotel to watch a basketball game. So I have some idea what I was stories you shouldn't tell.
I love it.
I didn't know what the summer league was, but I adopt my people. I fly out to their games. I'm there to support them. They pay me, and it's my job to get them where they want to go. Flew out to the summer league, and he was the number one statistical player in the summer league, and he was picked up.
I love it.
So had another kid come to me fresh out of college, and forgive me, in West Texas, we call everybody kids. It's a sign of endearment. I am old. They all are kids to me anyway. But the kid came. He had just graduated from college. He'd been picked up by a football team, and he called me and said, I understand you're good. And I said, well, thank you. It's all word of mouth. And I said, what is your objective? Again, it's in May. They never give me any time. I think it was end of May. And he said, I want to be starting quarterback in August. Oh, okay. I said, I have 2 questions for you. How old are you? He said, 23. I said, has there ever been a 23-year-old starting quarterback in the history of the NFL? He said, I don't know. Okay, just wondered what you're asking me to do. Second question, are you that good? He said, yeah. He was starting quarterback, 23.
Wow.
Yeah, wow's right. Here's the good news and the bad news about that for your particular audience. These are people who are not on a spiritual search. They're not looking for the answers to their personalities. None of that's on the table for them. I can get them those specific results. One of those young men stayed with me and continued to do scripts about relationship and lifestyle. He had a full rich, he wanted 10 years in the game. He got 10 years in the game, wonderful wife, 3 kids, retired to Florida. Everything's good. The other gentleman, his team found out, I've learned you don't go off the reservation in sports. When his coach found out, when his manager found out he was working with somebody else, they told him if he ever spoke to me again, he was toast, traded in. Yeah, you don't go off the reservation with those guys. It's as we say, it's the new plantation system. Yeah. So he did no more work with me, and unfortunately ended up, splashed in the news with some domestic violence stuff. Not him to her, her to him. She stabbed him. He had a full, rich life. So that's the difference between, someone who would be on a self-discovery path, right, and someone who would be more on what I would call professional performance path.
So if we look at that, because you also brought up, there's the pre-recorded scripts, and those are the ones that I worked with.
Right.
And for all the listeners out there, definitely check out changeyourmind.com. There is, if you can't find the script, then you're not looking close enough. They are all there. And so my question for you is, because I'm a firm believer also in, as we were sharing before, of utilizing our voice. And one of the things that this is kind of a threefold question, and I'll let you navigate it after this, is, so the difference between doing the pre-recorded sessions, then say utilizing your services of where someone comes to you and you do a personalized recording for them. Mm-hmm. And on there you have where you can create your own, which is amazing. And I absolutely love that. So if you could kind of share of how each one of those products can be utilized to facilitate healing, self-healing, and then kind of to create your own, and how that plays out as well.
Sure, thanks. Yeah, and this would depend on the personality of the person. So I'll put it in my Whitewater Guide Days language. So if you're a kayaker and you like to go down Whitewater Rapids by yourself in your own boat and don't mind if you flip and die, you're the kind of person. So that's the kind of person that's going to put in the time and energy and probably want to make their own. The risk is great. I don't mind the risk. I don't mind the time it's going to take for me to get this good at it. And I'm as my kid would say, I'm down for that. Okay?
Yeah.
And then if you just say, gee, I'm willing to experiment. I'll try one. Let's see what it's all about. You just pull down one of the MP3s off the webpage and the topic of your choice. By the way, one of the specials is your first step for people who just want to try it, get into it, see does it work, can I sleep to it, all that. There's a $19.95 special for your first step, and it's called Your First Step for a reason. It's your first step, and it has a little sweet little intro on change. I love this. Change flows like the seasons, and the universe can be trusted. Isn't that sweet? That is the opening line of that.
Yes.
Isn't that sweet? Which is called, I'm going to get past all my fear and resistance to change. I'm going to get into that flow and be in that. There's a little self-esteem in there. There are a couple of pieces like that. And that'll get you into it. And then if you're the person who really likes to dig and roto-rooter and do their own detective work and individual, then I do have a book on exactly how to make your own. Just tells you how to write a script, what a clearing script is, what a positive statement script is, how you find your issues, how you play detective. And then it has about 176 pages of scripts that I've written, a lot of which have never been recorded, that are just fill in the blank. Okay. So, for instance, if you have, let's say you have an anger issue, they're in alphabetical order. You just go to A. There's aging, and then there's anger. And under anger, you just go through the script, print it out and take your pen or leave it on the computer, however you enjoy working, and you just start filling in the blanks. And this is where you play detective. When do I remember first being angry? What are my experiences with anger? How did I see them in the home? Was my same sex parent or who modeled anger to me? How did I learn about anger? How did I see it expressed? Who gave it power? You just play all those games. You just fill in all these sentences, and then you record it in your voice. P.S. As you know, we've talked about this, John. The single most effective voice to record in is yours. The second most effective voice is your mother's. Very few people like their mothers to read their scripts, however. And the third most effective is any female voice. Yes. The least effective is a male voice. 98% of the recordings on the market when I started this work, actually 99, were all male voice. And so I played with those, and this is what happens. If a person, generally female, but of any gender or transgender or whatever, has had a negative, domineering, controlling experience with the male, very often what happens is they hear the male voice in the subconscious and go, no, I'm not doing it. And you will get exactly the opposite effect of the worded script. This is especially true in a research project that was done in Denver, in Colorado, on weight loss. A friend of mine did the research. He was hired to do it. When I lived in Santa Barbara, he and I used to walk on the beach and talk brain because he was the first one that did subliminal learning. He took a math program, put it online, and flashed subliminal words on the screen. This is so much fun. You can talk and talk forever about this. So he interviewed these little third grade kids and said, what's your favorite ice cream? Do you have a pet? What's its name? He had these very basic questions. And then if the pet's name was Rover, right in the middle of this learning math, Rover would start flashing in the lower right corner, or chocolate ice cream. And they felt good. And when they felt good, they learned. How much fun is that? You talk about, you think you stayed an alpha all your life? I knew this guy 70 some odd. I never saw him older than 4. I mean, he stayed a kid, and he was an artist. And of course, he was one of my silver spoon friends. He was very depressed because his allowance was only $50,000 a year when he was 50.
Oh, that's tough.
And it just wasn't enough, never mind. But he just stayed kid-like, and he was just fabulous at that. But because of this, and he did his doctorate on it. And so because of that, he got accepted in this field. So he was hired to go do this research on a subliminal company that was selling, testing a weight loss subliminal. So they did 3, you do group A, group B, and then C is the control group where you don't do any change and you see if they do any changes. It's a statistical model. Mm-hmm. So group A heard the CD, and one of them, whichever group it was, one heard the male voice. Okay. One heard a male and female voice superimposed, and then group C heard nothing but the music. And guess what? At the end of the time, group C lost the most weight.
Wow.
Now, if that's not a statement of the power of Largo Baroque symphonies, I don't know what is.
Absolutely.
I mean, if that's, and this feeds right into your field and what you do. If that's not just the power of the frequency of the movie, and remember, now if you go to sleep to that, especially now you're dumping out serotonin, the pituitary gland, human growth hormone, the music's doing all that for you. And this guy that had written this ridiculous script in his male voice was telling these women what to do. They went, I won't tell you what they, short word sounds like Trump, no.
Yeah.
So I started playing with that in my groups, and I would tell people, if you don't mind, I'm going to run some music behind us, and I've got a couple subliminals in it. Everybody okay with that? I get everybody's opinion. And I would run a male voice. I had women popping up like champagne corks coming out of that room and stomping out into the hall. They were so mad.
Wow. It's so, it's interesting, the impact that trauma has on us, especially once it starts to get unwound. When the triggers that show up, especially when you're working with sound, especially when, we're dialing into these things, what actually shows up?
I'm going to suggest, and sound is absolutely the right word, John, but I'm just going to say frequency.
Totally. Absolutely.
I mean, you know this, you walk into a room, you're sitting in a room and somebody walks in, you feel it hit your back.
Yes.
And you either go, or you go,
ah.
And then you turn around and go, and who just did that?
Right. It's energy precedes us. And it is felt.
Yeah.
And actually, let's start with this. So how many sessions do you typically need for a treatment before things start to unfold, before things start to unwind, before we start to notice things? Do we feel things in our body? Do we think things differently? Like what are some of the things that happen to us? And do we notice them?
Okay. Excellent question. And that puts us into another hour. I don't know how long, I don't know how long you want to hold your people captive here on your podcast. And so what I would suggest is, again, on the webpage, you can jump up and there's its own topic called How We Process. And you can download, again, it's a short, maybe 12-page paper, and we'll walk you through every single possibility.
Beautiful.
Processing by gender, by brain state, by past experiences, by personality type, by introvert, extrovert. It'll give you some generics from my observational research on that.
Perfect.
As you know, I asked people to listen 30 nights. It was 10 when I first started, but when I first started, I was only playing with personality issues. And now I choose to believe I'm playing on a deeper soul level. By the way, this is a disclaimer about the brain states, what I didn't go into. This is a spiritual audience, and so I will. Delta is perceived as the real state of oneness. There are no boundaries. It's also access to the Akashic records if you choose to believe in that, or past lives, or other dimensions, or whatever you choose to believe in, ETs, lizards, whatever, outside of ourselves. And Delta is the doorway to that. And so when you're sleeping to this, if you'll slip down from theta into delta, you're going to be able to access that doorway as well. So in my opinion, this can be used to go into those more than personality dimensions. Okay.
Most definitely.
Yeah. So with that said, if you would like, I would love it if you just did a follow-up podcast for your folks and said, I did this and this happened and this is what happened. Basically, each one of us are going to have our own story. And so what I ask people to do is just keep a journal for at least 10 days, day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and just write a few statements, no change, tired today, irritable, wanted to kill Teri. That's going to show up. At least once we're going to go through, ding dong, which is dead. and then write it out and see what your own process is, because it appears to me, my observation has been, once you identify your process, it's always the same.
Yes.
So recording 2, recording 3, recording 4, it's going to be the same process. And I know mine, I hit the wall on day 3. I wake up 11:30 going, wow, I think I'm getting the flu. That's so bizarre. I never get sick. Why am I? Oh, yeah, but I have been working too hard. Maybe I'm not sleeping well enough. Why it never occurs to me, and I don't just go, it's my recording.
Right.
My conscious mind isn't connected yet to that conscious processing. And that's very common for the conscious mind not to be connected. We don't call it unconscious for a reason. It's unconscious. And so if I have the ability, I'm in bed by, 11:30 that morning, I'm taking a nap, and I'm fine at 4:30. And at 4:30 as I'm coming out of it, I go, of course, it's day 3 of my recording. But not until I finish the processing, generally speaking, do I get that connection. So, each of us is going to have a different rhythm.
Yes.
And again, that's just more self-discovery. Many years ago when I was new to the process and got a whole class of 48 people to do this. I actually got them college credit for that. We had this fabulous class. I mean, I really lead a rotten life, pay me to go to Hawaii and give people tapes. But anyway, and I told them, generally speaking, people will hit on day 3, years maybe 5 or 7 or 10, I was still learning. And the next morning, the 3 little wonderful Hawaiian Japanese women in their probably 50s came up to me and said, she did, she changed. And I said, what? They said, she's changed, she's different today. And I said, no, it takes 3 days. Listen to this. No, it takes 3. My program, when you're not going to change. And I'm saying they're arguing with them. And finally, I just stopped and said, and your head would be where, Teri? I mean, you're the expert for what reason? Because I hadn't used it cross-culturally before.
Yeah.
And so I stood and talked to this woman for a little bit, and it was on Your First Step. And they were all doing Your First Step together. And she was a different human being. She was 24 hours. And I said, okay, I got to get to the bottom of this one. So I can't tell you how long saying to the universe, and I would do this all the time. Okay, this is my standard prayer. Okay, you guys, I'll take a clue, any clue about what this means. And I kept saying, okay, you guys, send me some sort of a cross-cultural expert. So I'm showing in Santa Fe at some, national, consciousness, whatever it was. And I've got a book table. And this guy comes up, a little Yul Brynner looking guy. I just thought he was one of the cutest things I'd ever seen. And he's looking at my stuff. And so, of course, I go over to have a conversation with him. And I said, what do you do? And he was a cultural psychologist from UCLA. And I said, come to mama. You don't understand. The Divine Mother sent you to me.
You got the tractor beams on.
That's right. It took me a while to home after I scared him so badly. That I said, let me tell you what's happening here and you explain it to me. I'm so blessed. He had just returned from a 2-year grant assignment in Europe, studying the different cultural patterns of brain and learning and stuff. And I told him what had happened with this little Japanese lady, and he just smiled enigmatically and kind of shrugged and said, of course. Mm-hmm. I said, of course what? I said, it takes me 3 days. I don't get it. He said, you're from America. There is no I in Japan. There is only we.
Yes.
And I said, well, of course, I'm Jeanette Wayne. I'm from West Texas. What do you think? And,
Jeanette Wayne.
And I started watching from that point on, and I appreciated your sharing that you hit about day 7. All generalizations are bad, including this one. The white male processes the slowest on the planet because the white male in America is programmed to be in control. And if you think that's fun, you ought to work with a German, which I did. I had a German and a Swedish guy at the same time working on. I mean, the difference between the two was unbelievable. My German guys put me through my paces. I'll tell you, if you ever want to keep walking into brick walls, try to, run some of those. But not that they didn't change in the end. Yeah, and again, all generalizations are bad, but
right.
But that is a population that I prefer to bypass if possible. Whereas give me 1,000 Japanese any day, because I got
the path of least resistance.
I mean, that was a really beautiful learning for me. And that's another thing that's in this. How do we process? I'm pretty sure I have it. I don't know if I use the word ego or control or whatever. But yeah. And as I said, my CIA guys, those guys, one of my fellows, of course, who in Vietnam was what we call an interrogator. I will not tell you the definition of that. He didn't even start processing until day 10. He didn't hit the wall on day 10. He didn't even acknowledge he had heard the recording until day 10. And he was on Release Your Past. And that one played out for him for, it was probably 3 to 6 months. Wow. Before, Cast Your Bread Upon the Water, before that one started coming back for him. And then his whole life changed, and it was beautiful. And when I say to you that to your point to point, this is my thought, again, based on observation. When we're working with personality issues, give me 3, 7, 10 days. You want to change your time management system, no problem. But when we're working with these deeper level or more intense or more embedded or whatever language would be appropriate here. And what I call it is my soul issues. I know this about myself. It's a little frustrating for me because it's my program and it should go faster for me.
Right.
It just doesn't. I process the same way every other person processes. And people say to me, but you've been doing this 35 years. What's it like for you? I said, exactly the same it is for you. We're in the human dimension.
I'm human.
So I know when I want to really, really change, which I started, 18 months ago, about 19, really, really want to change a pattern. Last August, September, I did some Roto-Rooter scripts for myself. I was in bed for 3 days. I mean, I did one every 3 days I think I did 3 or 4 of them. I don't remember. I'll stack them. I would never suggest that to anybody else, but I do everything I tell my clients not to do. And I was doing a stack about every 3 days on complete reworking whole soul work. And, anyway.
Oh my gosh.
I was in bed you didn't want me as a companion during those days. But I know when I do that, I've got a 2-year run and I'm just starting. So that was last August, August, September, right in there. And I'm starting to see it opening up now. So it's just about 1 year. So my expectation is next June, July, August, I'm going to be at a different place doing different things in different ways.
I love that.
May it be so.
Yes, may it be so.
Thank you so much for taking the time to ask me great questions and listen and be able to share this with others.
Absolutely. Teri, it's been, I've wanted to have you on here. It's truly an honor to have you on Reverberations and to share your experience, your wisdom, your research, and your practice. In the podcast coming up, so one of the ones that I would love to have, maybe do a little bit of laser session if you wanted to, Teri. I know that we had discussed that about just dialing in.
It is my great joy to do that.
My gosh, I know it's your great joy. I know, and I revel in it. Oh,
let me save you 20 years of therapy.
Oh my gosh, I love it. So one of the things that I have one last question for you, because with the work that we are doing in this journey of self-discovery and tuning within, what do you see as an opportunity for growth for humanity? And where can we consciously evolve so that we can be better stewards for our planet?
Well, it's a great question. I think no two would answer that the same way, nor do they need to. So I would say, first, each person finds their own path. And second, don't ever put me up on a pedestal. I'm what is called the reluctant messiah. I never said I was going to do this. I never wanted to get into this. I backed into this. The Divine Mother put this on my head. I did not raise my hand and say, send me your poor, you're tired, you're weak, and you're huddled masses. I am in the bay. So, pretty practical person. I was doing all my own work. I love teaching. Don't misunderstand me. But I never saw myself as a person who was going to be a leader in this particular arena. I was a management consultant. I worked for the Department of Defense. Pretty entertaining. Which was always fun to go on a military bases and introduce myself as how did a vegetarian psychic pacifist get here talking to you guys. And they turned to each other and go, what did she say? And
what is she doing here?
That's right. No, they couldn't hear it. And it's too far outside of their paradigm. And I'd say, now that I've done my disclaimer, let's get started. And they'd go, oh, okay. And it resolved. But that way I felt at least I was integrity. But my point is, no two of us would do the same. And you've heard this story. The reason I wrote that statement, I'm divinely guided when to control from ego and personality and when to flow from soul, is I was doing intense, deep, important, it's heavy, all that serious stuff we do, which is crazy. Spiritual development. And I was so close to being Mother Teresa. I wanted to be Mother Teresa. And anyway, so I did this whole grounding your spirituality script for myself. So I was going to go over the edge and transcend being a human. I was going to sin. I was going to be pure spirit and float around on a cloud. And 3 days later, when I processed, I put my makeup back on, my earrings, started cussing again, and went, what just happened here? WTF, what just happened here? And I'm very blessed to have connection to spirit in most times and, get a lot of questions answered. This big booming voice came down I went out on a vortex, of course, and sat and did my work. And a big booming voice came down from the sky and said, child, we have a Mother Teresa.
Yes.
And Mother Teresa can't train for the Department of Defense. You're fine. So the first thing I would say that each of us says, I am unique. I am this person. I bring these gifts. I bring this to the planet. First, I bring myself to the planet. So I'm the first miracle, the miracle of birth. And so now it's just within, and I don't want to be limiting, John, but within that context, what do I want to add, give, whatever the language would be to the planet and it doesn't have to be the planet. It can be my block. It can be my neighborhood. Right. It can be my family. It can be my grandkids. I think, somebody like Barack Obama's mother probably didn't have to do much more than have Barack Obama, Yeah. He gave quite a bit to the planet. He was, first, he changed history. So we never know. I think I'm dodging your question a little bit. So let me give a little bit of information and I'll close with a story. So the information, if I wanted to know about conscious evolution, I would pick up Barbara Marx Hubbard's book called Conscious Evolution. Don't make it hard, people. I was very blessed to work with Barbara and her team when they were first coming together to try to put that whole concept and movement, for want of better words, into place. And I wrote a script for them that their whole team listened to together for them to come into congruence and harmony and cohesiveness to do that work. I'm very, very pleased with that. There is a script in my book called Conscious Evolution, taken directly from her book. So, and I've done it. If conscious evolution is your deal, do a script on conscious evolution. So that's the way I've treated Change Your Mind for years. When I have a question, I do a script on it.
Beautiful.
And I come into complete harmony with that issue and with that answer. That's just my way of moving forward. But I would also ask that we all keep in mind, Buckminster Fuller said, the honeybee thinks his purpose, and they are he's because the queen's at home, thinks his purpose is to go out and get pollen and bring it back to the hive to support his queen. That's what the honeybee thinks his purpose is. However, the honeybee's purpose is to pollinate flowers. And we as humans are like that honeybee. Basically, this is not his language, it's mine. We don't have a clue.
Yeah.
So I don't have a clue what kind of an effect I'm having. And frankly, I don't want to. Because if I did, I'd get a little too much probably into some ego. Who knows what I'd get into. I'm perfectly comfortable, and you've heard me say this many times. My job description is show up.
Yes.
Okay. And then my job preparation is show up authentic. And if I can't show up, don't go. And if I can't be authentic, stay home. And with that, going, and as you know, I've had an interesting background. I was called in by the governor to go from division to division to clean them up. Politics is a really interesting place to show up and be authentic. You don't last long. I just want you to know there's a time frame too. And so they moved me to division. It was, I did some pretty, some folks didn't particularly enjoy the work I did. I bear the distinction of being the only gubernatorial appointee in the history of the United States that ever had a class action suit brought against her by her own state.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty fun.
That's quite a feat.
Yeah. The lieutenant governor, the lieutenant governor and I did not become best friends. And he tried to stop some stuff I was doing. And I just basically said, no, you're the lieutenant governor. I run my division. I'm going to run it my way. So he formed a class action suit against me. I just had a whole bunch of fun. So here's the end of that story that I love. I got a good West Texas Family Church of Christ, basic, real Christians, fabulous, fabulous foundation for me. My dad and I did, studied comparative religions together while he taught, Sunday school in a Church of Christ. I mean, it was a beautiful, I was very, very blessed. So after a long time, I knew I wasn't going to last long, but after a while I was asked to resign. I lasted longer than anybody thought I would. So I called my dad. It was in April, May. I said, Dad, I got good news and bad news. He said, what's that, kid? And I said, I'm going to get home. I'm going to be able to come home a little early this year. I always went in June and in December every year to see him, Father's Day and Christmas. And I said, I'm going to get to stay a little longer. He said, well, that's good news, kid. What's bad news? And I said, I got asked to resign. There was a long pause. He said, how long have you been in that job, kid? And I said, a couple of years, Dad. He said, oh, kid, if you'd lasted any longer, I'd worry about you.
You knew.
So be authentic, show up. Everything else will fall into place. I honestly think we get I think we take ourselves just a little too seriously.
Got that right.
So, if it's not fun, I mean, it's not always fun. I've done some rotor work. I'd just as soon been under the wheels of a train first, but most of it's got to balance out. If it's not joy, it's not spirit. If it's not harmony, it's not spirit. If it's not peace, it's not spirit. If it's not love, it's not spirit. So I think that's for us to keep in mind. It may take a little, homework and some breaking digging to be able to maintain that more consistently.
Yes.
But if those elements aren't present, I'm not down for somebody that's serious and telling me how hard it is all the time. That's just not my way of approaching it.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you sharing that because that it resonates with me, and I know the audience is really going to appreciate everything that you shared. And that last piece really just kind of ties it all together and how we can support a more sustainable and harmonious coexistence within and throughout. And that's really what the whole journey of self-discovery is about, is how can we participate? How can we take what we have learned from our experiences and then apply that in the world in front of us and have fun with it, right? It doesn't need to be so hard. It doesn't need to be so serious. And I love that you shared that because, that's one thing in a lot of the personal development that we really have to be so serious and be so engaged. Yes. And let's remember to have fun.
Yeah.
Let's all the
roses.
Yes, please. Let's have some fun with this. Let's enjoy this experience. Let's make the most out of it. Let's do the work so we can lay the groundwork for future generations, so we can dissolve a lot of the generational trauma that has held us into these patterns. Though let's have fun in the unwinding process and support and love one another so we can make this a better place for all and enjoy our experience together.
And I would absolutely end with and absolutely believe in miracles. It doesn't have to take that long. Again, one more story. My most recent client was a woman who came, and it was in person. It was a woman who came to me. She's a psychotherapist. She's, I think, 54 years old. She works with EMDR, which I very much respect, and specializes in trauma. And of course, when we start talking, she wants to work on a better business or whatever it was. I don't remember. And of course, we get down to the nitty gritty, and she's on 2 meds for anxiety. I'm sorry. Did you hear that? Okay, let's work this.
All right.
So does EMDR work or doesn't it? Is what you're
right.
Effective or isn't it? So it's, we had to kind of work around. Actually, it took 4 hours. I was dead by the time she left. I was a little tired when she left. And she's not had anxiety since.
Beautiful.
Now that's pretty cool. But
that's amazing.
She's still calling me every week to report. I still haven't had it. It's like, lady, could you just kind of relax into got a miracle? Could you just kind of relax into, you came with the objective, you paid me, I got your objective. Could you kind of relax into, you went to the store and picked up your milk and drank the milk? Get over it.
Well, Teri, that goes into a whole topic that we could go into, is that when things start to show up for us, a lot of that programming is that we're not worthy, or that we're not good enough, or that miracles aren't, we're not deserving of those, or too good to be true. Any of those, those old programming. And a lot of people just aren't ready to receive that. Let's just surrender and accept that miracles are here. And you and I have talked about, I know both of us have a strong connection with Florence Scovel-Shinn.
Right.
And, my dad, when he had passed, one of the things that he passed on to me, and it's right in front of me right here, is a mug, and it said, "Miracle shall follow miracle, and wonder shall never cease."
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. Miracle will follow another miracle, and wonders will never cease as long as we allow ourselves to experience that. We have to say yes to that. We have to allow for that to be our new experience. And I love that you shared, that story, because that's so indicative of so many people, of where they go and they experience something, but then the self-sabotage, well, that's not going to work, or that's just a one-time thing. No, we really have to allow for these things to show up so that we can experience it on a regular basis and support one another. That when somebody is going through that experience and it does show up, support them and encourage them and celebrate their journey. And
here's the PS, John, that's hilarious. Her business has increased 500%.
Of course it has.
In 2 weeks.
Wow.
So now what she does is she calls me every week and profiles her clients, and I give her the answer, and then she goes and heals the clients. And I thought, I need to charge for this.
Yeah. Hey, we got a kickback here.
This may be a new business. All you therapists who are stuck, give me 50% of what your client gave you on one visit. You're seeing them for 3 months. I'm going to fix it in 3 minutes. And let's get this moving down the road. But that has been fascinating to me. She calls me every week, and I don't ask her, because to me it's a big deal. My head isn't there. My head is, you came, we fixed it, you're gone. Move on.
Next.
Every week she calls and says, I just want to tell you, I haven't had that anxiety this week either. Well, how about just move to gratitude and get on down the road?
Yes.
Get on. But
so many amazing topics here.
But here's the difference, John. I did it in a one-time setting. I did not make a recording. She did not listen every night for 30 nights. And so her theta is just, it's just having, beta's just not getting it.
Right.
The conscious mind is just still not, and she's a wonderful woman. I'm not in any way being critical. I love her. I adore her. She's great fun. She's doing good work. But it's like, can we move to, move on?
Let's drop it in now.
Yeah.
Let's embody that. Yeah.
So I think so we can close with, let's move on.
Yes. Let's move on. I love that. Teri, it's such an honor to have you here. For all the listeners out there, please go out to changeyourmind.com. You will find a wealth of resources there. There is studies that are on there. If you need to have any sort of, if you're the type of person that likes to do research or that likes to know where the information comes from, when you go onto her website, not only does she walk you through everything, not only does she have the samples on there, but if you go and you look at the studies, the research, the whys, and you look at all of the studies that are listed down at the bottom of that PDF, you can see the time, the dedication, the research, the science. And that's really what it comes down to. This isn't not only a spiritual practice, it is a harmonious practice of bridging spirit with the real world, with our physicality, with the scientific basis of what moves us, what grooves us, and what soothes us, so that we can move forward on this journey of self-discovery and serve ourselves. And in that, we serve the world. And it's truly an honor, Teri. You are a gift to this world with the work that you're doing. And listeners, please definitely check her out. Is there anything that I left out? Is there any resources or anything that you would like to share before we head out, Teri?
I would just ask each person to spend time just being with themselves. I used to read 100 books a year, so I'm not exactly someone to say don't read more books. I can't in good conscience say don't do what I did. And I still read, and I teach in grad school. It's not that I don't have my head into, I teach capstone. My students are writing a master's thesis. And so I'm reading research all the time, which is fun for me. And that's great. But if I don't balance that with it's just about me and spirit, I don't think it provides as much value for me or for any one of my students. And John and I have talked about this before. When I was in Sedona doing that whole, sackcloth thing, I kept going. Everybody would say, it's the I am presence. I go, what is I am? And everybody talked. I could not get it, probably my limitation. But nobody could explain I am to me in a way that I just kind of grokked it. I just, so I just, well, you are God. Okay, goddess, but okay, I'm going to do the female thing. And then one day it just came to me and I said, my I am is my expression of spirit.
Yes.
So as I express spirit every day in every way, that's who I am. And that, in my opinion, is strengthened by the time I spend with just me and spirit.
I love that.
And the more time I have with just me and spirit, the more I am able to express that. And well, first is, like you said, it's about me first, John. It's just to have the pleasure and the joy of that experience, just to be able to sit and go, I just feel good sitting here, folks. What are you doing? Nothing. I had a woman say to me this morning, you are so ambitious. I said, you don't get it. I'm on a quest right now to do a few things. If that was already done, I would probably be a total sloth and enjoying it completely. Please don't put that characterization on me. You're so ambitious. Are you kidding? I've got a goal in mind. I'm a professional manager. Set your objective, met your behavior to objective. As soon as the objective is met, I drop out again.
Yes.
I never worked more than 2.5 years in my life. And then I've gone off on some fabulous, go be with yourself thing. And I know that people in, 9-to-5 jobs, that's challenging. I know how hard that is. I've been a single parent, not only for a kid and then for a grandkid, raised my grandkid. But I think that it's just that we make that commitment to ourselves. And it is, I will spend time with spirit in these chunks, whatever that means to me. I'll take a 1 day a month retreat. I'll take a 1 month a year retreat. I'll take 10 minutes every morning before I go to work. It's going to be different for different people. I would never prescribe, but spirit and I are one, and I'm going to live as if that is the case.
I absolutely love that. And thank you for that. That is the perfect drop-off point here, is that spirit and I are one. Thank you for sharing that. And once again, thank you for being here, for being on Reverberations. For all of the listeners, if there is anything that has resonated, if there is anything that has triggered you, if there is anything that has come forward, please feel free to reach out to Teri. You can reach out to myself. Share the podcast. Share it with your social network. Share Teri's website. Share her work. Let's get this out there. Again, this whole podcast is about reverberations, right? It's about reverberating the message throughout all of creation. We have a service to offer to ourself and for ourself and as ourself and with the collective consciousness. We are creating a more sustainable and harmonious community by the work that we do for ourselves and with others. So please feel free to share this far and wide. And also, please leave a review if you found this beneficial. Leave a review for the podcast. And once again, thank you, Teri, for being here on Reverberations, sending all of our love. Have yourself an amazing day. Please do feel free, once again, to reach out to Teri, changeyourmind.com, everyone. Have a lovely day.
Thanks, John.
You're welcome. Thank you, Teri. I'd like to extend my gratitude to Dr. Teri Mahaney for joining and sharing her wisdom and expertise on how to optimize our mental capacity to be a better service for ourselves so that it reverberates within and throughout so that we can create a more sustainable and harmonious experience for all in creation. Her work truly is a blessing. Please visit her website, changeyourmind.com. Check out her MP3s. They're an extremely powerful resource for our healing, our own personal growth, and overall well-being. Thank you once again, Teri. Truly an honor to have you on this edition of Reverberations and looking forward to our future episodes together. And thank you everyone for tuning in. Again, check out Dr. Teri Mahaney's website, changeyourmind.com. And if anything resonated with you during this podcast, inspired you, moved you, activated something within, subscribe to the podcast, share, comment, leave a review, send me a message. I'd love to connect with you. Also, check out 365.com, amplifyyourlove.com. Hang out for a little bit. Check out my latest track, Enchiladas Tonight. That was on Plus. You can find that on beatport.com, TrackSource, or any of your favorite music purveyors. Again, thank you all. And remember, we are better together. Love you all. You are the creator. Together we are free.